Welcome back, everybody, to another Wednesday Wisdom segment on the Educational AD Podcast. We'll be right back with this week's Wednesday Wisdom guest. But as always, guess what? We're going to give a shout out to our sponsors. Remember, these are all companies I used as an athletic director. They're all great companies. You should be using them too. So take 3 minutes, listen to our shout outs, then listen to our Wednesday Wisdom guest, and then go and visit these sponsors. I'm telling you, you're going to be glad you did. Here we go. We want to say thanks to our good friends at Gipper for their support. Go to Gipper.com. Let their team turn you into a social media marketing guru. Your school is doing tremendous work athletically, your students, coaches, and Gipper's going to help you share that through social media posts, texting, video, graphics, and it's all going to be in your school colors, your brands, your logos. Go to Gipper.com. Start promoting your program at the next level today. We also want to say thanks to Sideline Interactive, indoor score tables and video boards. Go to sidelineinteractive.com and you can schedule a live web demo and see their products in action. Probably the best purchase I ever made was our Sideline Interactive indoor score table. Go to sidelineinteractive.com. Schedule that live web demo today. We also want to say thanks to Hometown. Hometown continues to be a game changer for schools with their suite of solutions that includes things like, well, digital ticketing, of course, but how about fee-free fundraising, athletic website construction, and a whole lot more. As an AD, as a coach, as a principal, Hometown is going to show you how to save time, raise more money, and bring your community together. Go to hometown.com to get started. We also want to thank our friends at Huddle. As a football coach, I used Huddle for years, but when I became an athletic director, I made sure that our school was a Huddle school. And our coaches, our student athletes, even our parents just love the platform. Join the over 100 million users and find out how to turn your school into a Huddle school. That's huddle.com. We also want to say thanks to our friends at Beacon Creative Wall of Fame. Now, Vital Signs Wall of Fame has been helping schools share their legacy for the past decade. But now with Beacon Creative, it's a whole lot more. Beacon Creative is an actual content creation service that's going to take your data and turn out compelling stories to help promote your student athletes in your program. And the only thing you have to do is supply the data. You don't have to lift a finger. I want you to email John Townsend at John, John, at beaconwalloffame.com. You're going to be glad you did. We also want to thank Ohio University and their online masters in athletic administration. My assistant AD got his master's through the Ohio program, well, along with thousands of others, and it was a great experience. Go to Ohio University's website, take a look at their online Masters in Athletic Administration. We want to say thanks to Athletic Surveys. If you've never used a survey to take the pulse of your student athletes, your coaches, how about your parents, you're really missing out. The data that these surveys provide is incredibly valuable, especially when you're visiting with a parent or sometimes your principal or even your school board. Go to athleticsurveys.com. They'll create that custom survey that lets you get connected with everybody in your program. We want to say thanks to Home Campus. Home Campus is a platform you're going to use every day. Scheduling, rosters, results, facilities. Their athletic eligibility and clearance platform alone is a game changer. Go to homecampus.com to find out all the things they can do for you in your program. And finally, we want to thank Snap Raise. If you've ever spent weeks and weeks with a fundraiser and been disappointed in the results, those days are over. Go to snapraise.com. We used it at our school with our teams, and it was a tremendous success. Check out all their other great platforms. But if you're looking for a fundraiser, you just found it, and it's Snap Raise. Go to snapraise.com, and as always, please mention the podcast. Hey, welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Wednesday Wisdom on the Educational AD Podcast. If you've been listening to the podcast for, let's say, the last year or so, You're certainly going to remember the name Tessa Taylor. She was in our 600s as far as an interview. Did a great job. She's in the fourth edition of the Athletic Director's Toolbox. If you missed that episode, go back and listen to it in our archives. Tessa is the head cross country and track coach at Frostproof High School. That's right here in Florida. She's also very active in an organization called the Florida Coaches Coalition. And we're just very excited to have her back on the podcast. Tessa Taylor, welcome to Wednesday Wisdom.
Hi, Jake. Thank you for having me.
Oh, no,
Glad to be
absolutely. Okay. You and I were talking before we started recording. I think you got a great topic for all of our listeners, for ADs. ADs, take some notes, pass this on to your coaches. And if we have coaches listening, this is stuff you're going to be able to use right away. So, Tessa, I'm going to step back. What do you have for our listeners today on Wednesday Wisdom?
So today I would like to talk about REDS, which stands for Relative Energy Deficiency in Sports. And if you haven't heard about it, I'm not surprised. I'm going to share some statistics with you guys in just a little bit. But as a background, I would like to share a little bit of my story about how I came to find out what REDS is and how it affected my athletic career. And maybe it'll ring a bell for some of you listening and help you to identify what might be going on in some of your athletes. So I was a track and cross country athlete back in the 90s in high school, ran in college in the early 2000s. And during that time, no one actually talked to athletes about fueling, at least not in the circles that I was in, fueling for performance. And being a distance runner, a lot of the information I was getting was just by observing other athletes. So I would see that athlete is running fast. They look skinny, so skinny must equal fast. So instead of thinking, what food do I need to eat to fuel to run faster and better, I was focused on, I need to look a certain way to run faster. And at the time, there was knowledge out there about the female athlete triad, and that is probably something that more people have heard about. And the female athlete triad was developed in the 90s, and it was there's a like graphic to describe it that looks like a triangle. And it's a combination of energy availability, menstrual dysfunction, and bone health. So pretty much what it says is triangle things coming together where if a female athlete doesn't eat enough, that she's not going to have a menstrual cycle and she's going to get stress fractures. So for me, I knew about this and I thought, well, I have a cycle sometimes. I haven't had a stress fracture and I don't look super skinny. So this must not apply to me. So that was not even on my radar because I didn't think it applied to me. But in reality, I was an athlete who was running 40 to 50 miles a week, which is fairly low miles for a college program. But I was often skipping breakfast and lunch. And then I would eat, when I did eat meals, I was eating a lot of salads and drinking a lot of Diet Coke because I thought that's what was healthy. Because I thought that's what was going to make me skinny and that was what was going to make me fast. But in reality, I was tired and hungry all the time, and my performance plateaued. I didn't have any major injuries. And even on that meager diet, I did not lose a lot of weight. My weight actually fluctuated a lot, probably about 25 pounds going up and down from a normal weight to even maybe being a little bit overweight. And so none of that really made sense to me at the time. I thought, I'm an athlete who tries really hard. My coach actually gave me the Blood and Guts Award because I was the athlete that when he said, go do this 5 to 6 times, I always did it 6 times and I was going to do everything he asked and try my hardest. And often I made scary faces because of the effort I was making. So I tried very hard. I was very committed. But the thing that I couldn't seem to figure out was like, I can't seem to get the right kind of body to make myself run fast enough. And I felt like a failure. And this was back in the early 2000s. And it wasn't until probably 2 years ago that I actually figured out what I was dealing with. And that was REDS, relative energy deficiency in sports. And this became on the radar more so in 2014 when the International Olympic Committee realized that this was an issue, and they actually developed a paper defining it and addressing it as a problem in sports. So since then, there has been more information put out and research on it, but it's still not getting it's not getting in the hands of coaches and athletes and even providers. So for some statistics, and I will talk a little bit more about what it is, but about 60% of female high school athletes show at least one component. 33% of male high school athletes show at least one component. And that's something new because originally with the female athlete triad, people thought this was something that only affected women. 80% of elite young female athletes have had at least one symptom of REDS. 28 to 56% of female adolescent athletes think that losing a period is a normal response to high level athletic training. 24% of US high school coaches are aware of the female athlete triad. So, not even the updated version of REDS, which includes men, but only 24% are aware of the female athlete triad. 14% of US high school coaches are actually able to identify what the components are. And this is where it gets even a little bit scarier. 48% of US physicians were able to correctly identify the three components of the female athlete triad, not even REDS, and 9% of US physicians felt comfortable managing it. So there is a big gap in what we are beginning to learn from the research and what students know, what coaches know, what even medical providers know. And so, what I want to do is bring awareness to this. I'm not an expert by any means, but as coaches, parents, athletic directors, if we are aware of some things that can help prevent this and recognize some of the signs to point athletes to people who can actually help and are qualified to help, I think we can get ahead of some of these really bad statistics.
Well, you probably saw me scribbling down some notes there. I'd actually heard of the female triad before. Our assistant AD at Maclay had done a lot of research on that and did presentations for all of our student athletes. But um, I'm trying to formulate my question. Where does that rank and file coach? Let's take that. Maybe they're teaching 6 out of 7 subjects and coaching a couple sports at the school. Where do they go to get some solid information that they can then pass on to their student athletes, maybe even share with the parents?
Yes. I think a good first step is the National High School Learning Center, the NA, I'm going to say the acronym wrong. It's the NFHS Learn Center. And that is a website that many coaches are already using to do their concussion and sports training, their heat illness prevention training, all those sort of things. It's a free resource. They actually have a new course on there called the Female and Male Athlete Triad. And it's about 30 minutes long and it's free. So I think that is an excellent place for coaches to start. It does, it doesn't have all the information. And I think one of the things that it misses is that one of the components of REDS, so REDS builds on the female athlete triad. So the stuff that was relevant for the female athlete triad is still concerning if somebody has those symptoms, but there's more to it than just that. So REDS has found that it's not just affecting your bone health, it affects your cardiovascular health, it affects your endurance, and there's also performance components. And I think as adults, we see this and we think we want our athletes to be healthy and we think about the long term. But if you're a 14-year-old athlete wanting to be really good in sports, you're going to care a whole lot more about the performance side than what your bones are going to be like when you're 70 years old. And so I think the only thing that it misses is it doesn't focus on the performance things a lot, but it does help identify the different symptoms and things to look out for and the importance of fueling. So I think that would be a great place for a coach to start is to go to the NFHS Learn Center and watch the free course on the female and male athlete triad. I also have a whole list of other resources that go more in depth that I would love for anyone to reach out to me to share. But I think in general, as coaches, it's good to talk about these things. And it doesn't have to come from a place of knowing a whole lot of specifics. Like, for example, one of the things that I really try to focus on with my athletes is the importance of three things, which is sleep, drinking water, and eating enough. So we talk about that all the time. Yesterday at track conditioning, we had a small group. So in between some of the intervals when the athletes were resting, the other coach and I went around talking and asking them how they were feeling. And then we asked them, like, what did you eat today? What have you had to drink today? And it wasn't to target like, oh, you had a hamburger, you should have had a salad, which I would never say anyways. It was more of seeing like, are they actually eating enough to show up to practice ready to go? Are they tired because they're not sleeping? Are they tired because they're not drinking water? Are they tired because they're not eating? So I had one athlete who said, well, I didn't eat breakfast. I ate the school lunch. I didn't really drink any water. And now here I am. So I was able to say, well, why don't you eat breakfast in the morning? And she said, well, I ride the bus in the morning. And if I ride the bus, it's bumpy and I feel sick if I eat breakfast. So I said, that makes a lot of sense. Have you thought about packing something in your bag, even something simple like a granola bar and a banana, so that when you get off the bus, you can eat it and that way you won't feel sick. And that'll help give you the energy you need for practice. So as coaches, we are not registered dietitians or nutritionists, but we can encourage athletes not with a specific diet, but to help them see how important it is to fuel. And there's also a really good resource that the U.S. Olympic Committee has put out, and it's on teamusa.com, and they have a nutrition page, and they actually have these visual graphics of athlete plates. So that it'll be a picture of a plate and it portions out food that you should eat. And it'll be like carbohydrates, vegetables, and protein. And for different levels of training, it shows how much you should have. And it's not limiting to that plate. It says if you eat that plate and you're still hungry, eat another plate with the same ratios. And what we find is as athletes training increases, they actually need more carbohydrates. And I think carbohydrates right now in today's culture, people are watching TikTok and Instagram and all these things, they may get ideas about, oh, I need to cut carbs. Well, actually, if you're an athlete, you don't need to cut carbs. So there are good guides out there that we can point athletes to that are visual and help them know if they're struggling with that. But I think the main thing for coaches is to create a culture and environment where we're encouraging kids to actually fuel and talk about it. Because if we don't talk about it, they're going to be getting their information about what they should be eating somewhere else. So if we talk about it, we can create a good culture of fueling for performance.
Yeah. Boy, you hit on so many great topics there, and on the resources, the NFHS Learn website. If you can email me that information, I can put all of that in the show notes so our listeners can get access to it. But also, we'll do this at the end of this segment. If our listeners want to reach out to you and listeners, you have a tremendous resource. What's the best way that they can connect with Tessa Taylor?
The best way is just email me. And then if you want to connect on the telephone or something, we can do that. But my email address is tessa.taylor@gmail.com. Tessa.taylor@gmail.com. And seriously, please reach out to me. I actually last night talked on the phone with one of your former guests, Jake, that I heard on the podcast, and she had some great ideas. So I emailed her and asked if we could chat sometime, and we chatted, and she sent me some of her resources. So this is a great opportunity to share resources to help better serve our kids.
I love it. Thanks for sharing that. Now you got to put that little nugget on social media so people see all the great work we're doing. You also talked about, and again, I was a football coach and a track coach for my entire career. So, the whole idea of training and recovery, certainly part of my practice plan. But I think, the rest, the fueling, and the hydration, I think those are three of the most either neglected or abused components of working out and try to help kids. And you talked about performance. All the things that you're alluding to are going to help improve the athlete's performance. But oh, by the way, it's also going to keep them healthy, not just for the season, but for the rest of their life when they're no longer, a high school track and field or cross country athlete. So, um, giving our student athletes that information, even the most basic information, it's our duty, it's our responsibility. We're negligent if we don't do it. And again, you mentioned already, we're not registered dietitians and that sort of thing, but just reminding them about the importance of putting fuel into your body. I would always use the analogy, hey, you're not some broken down clunker that's leaking oil. You're a high performance race car, and we want to put the good fuel in you. So put that Snickers bar away for now. Let's get something good. As you mentioned, carbs into your system. Any other, I guess, easy to use and safe but effective nutritional tips that you can pass on right now to our listeners?
So one other thing that research has actually showed is that having low energy can change throughout the day. And so when you have low energy from not fueling enough, over time is when it creates syndromes like REDS. But you can still have low energy within one day, even if by the end of the day you are eating enough. So what that means is if you go to track practice and then you don't eat anything and you go to baseball practice, or if you do something like that, you're going to have this multiple hour time period during the day when you don't have the fuel that you need to perform. So it's not just about eating a big dinner at the end of the day when you're done with everything. It's about fueling every 2 to 3 hours as the day goes on, especially if you're doing multiple sports and doing things that demand a lot. So my general tip that I give athletes is to have snacks. Keep snacks in your bag so that you're not going hungry. And I know that that can be a challenge for some kids. It can be expensive for some kids. I'll even suggest pack a peanut butter and jelly sandwich because buying a loaf of bread and a jar of peanut butter and jelly will last a lot longer than some of these really expensive protein bars, which aren't necessarily bad, but you don't have to have a fancy snack for it to do the job. A peanut butter and jelly sandwich or something similar will do it. One of the things that our school tried last year, and unfortunately we weren't able to continue it, we're a Title I school, so sometimes we qualify for programs, and we qualified for a program where we got free snacks for athletes after school. And that was great, but the problem was they had to eat them in the cafeteria after school and then go to practice. And ideally, our athletes need that food right after practice because they were giving us cheese sticks and chocolate milk and beef jerky and things that the kids would eat right before practice and then they feel gross. So there are programs out there that can help if you're at a school where kids don't have the ability, the means to get fuel, but finding something that actually works with your practice schedule can be a challenge, but there are things available. But in general, I would say we don't need to tell them what to eat, but try to help them find something that they can eat.
Yeah, and that's a good point. You always have that well-meaning but maybe overbearing teacher. Oh, you can't have food in my classroom, and that sort of thing. And again, peanut butter sandwich is a great idea, but geez, how about an apple or banana? If you like those carrot sticks or whatever, just anything during the day to again put that fuel into your body, so you're going to be ready to perform and compete after school practice or a competition. Um, on rest, okay. Kids today, you hear that expression. They're up till 2 a.m. on their devices. There's homework. There's social life, and then, oh, by the way, you've got academics and athletics. You're a very successful coach. Do you have any tips that you can share that you encourage your student athletes to follow regarding rest and recovery and sleep?
Yeah, so that can be a challenge with young student athletes because a lot of times they're night owls and they have energy at night, but trying to get them to sleep. But one of the things that I try to communicate with them is that getting enough sleep, drinking their water, eating their meals. That's actually part of training. And that's one of the most important things they could do. So, sometimes you'll have an athlete who wants to know, what else do I need to do, coach, to get better? I'm like, before you do any extra things, you got to nail the basics because that's one of the most important things of training. Because if you're sleeping well, if you're eating well, and you're staying hydrated, you're going to be more consistent. You're not going to get injured as much. You're going to miss fewer days of practice. And that consistency over time is really what's going to help athletes improve more.
Yeah, you just made me think of something. I was at a clinic, and again, I never did this, but I thought it was a great idea. Um, the coach would actually, on the weekly workout sheet, would put down, uh, and it wasn't the same thing, but on every day it was, 8 hours of sleep, and then the next day, get plenty of rest, and then on the next day it was something else. But they actually incorporated the idea of sleep and recovery into the workout. Hey, this is part of our workout, just like doing 800 repeats or whatever it was. So very very cool idea. Well, Tessa, really appreciate you sharing today. It's a huge subject, but a very important one. Um, Thanks for those resources. Again, we're going to try to get those in the show notes. And one more time, if one of our listeners wants to reach out, pick your brain just a little bit more on this or any other topic, what's the best way they can get a hold of Tessa Taylor?
The best way is tessa.taylor@gmail.com. And I will, before we go, I'm going to plug one more resource that I forgot to mention. And I'm actually excited about this one. And with the Florida Coaches Coalition, we've just started a partnership with them. So we're hoping to help get this resource out to more coaches. And it's called Coaching Her. And it's through the University of Minnesota, which has a big research center for women and girls in sports. And again, the female athlete triad is now the female and male athlete triad in REDS, which affects both genders, but more women are affected than men. So if you coach women or girls, this is a good resource for body confidence and fueling and things like that, specific for coaching girls. So it's called Coaching Her, and I'm going to share that resource in the show notes as well.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks for sharing. Let's go before we go. Let's give a quick shout out to Florida Coaches Coalition. Their goal, their single goal, is to help raise coaching stipends in the state of Florida. What's going on right now?
So, as far as that goes, there's actually a bill that's in the works. The Senate has already written one, and the House of Representatives is working on writing a companion bill. I don't know all the politics of that, but I think both houses have to present a bill and then it has to be voted on. So, the bill will actually be presented in its entirety and voted on in January. So, we will have some news about that soon. So, it seems to all be going well. And in addition to coaches' compensation, we care a lot about coach education. So when we presented at the state capitol about wanting raises for coaches, it was also about improving the certifications for coaches and education. We have a big clinic coming up in February in Orlando for flag and football coaches that's going to have a lot of good speakers. Coaches can get certified for AED and CPR at that clinic as well. And so we also care a lot about providing resources and helping educate coaches as well.
Yeah, tremendous organization. I know you're part of that leadership team. We've had a number of them on the podcast before too. I think I'm going to have to go to that clinic, if for no other reason, to get my CPR updated
Yeah.
too. So thanks for sharing that nugget. Tessa, always great to spend some time with you. All the best as we move from the winter months into a great spring in track and field. And we're definitely going to get you back on the podcast.
Oh, well, thanks, Jake. I enjoyed it.
For our listeners, we enjoy you. Thanks for listening. And just a reminder that we upload the Zoom recordings of all of our interviews to the Educational AD Podcast YouTube channel. We do Wednesday Wisdom just about every week and just about every day. We try to share stories and best practices from the world of athletics. So please join us again on the next episode of the Educational AD Podcast. We'll see you next time. Before we go, of course, we want to give a shout out to all of our great sponsors one more time. Let's say thanks to Beacon Creative Wall of Fame, Gipper. Want to thank Snap Raise and Huddle. Thanks to Athletic Surveys, Sideline Interactive, Indoor Score Tables and Video Boards, Home Campus. Want to say thank you to Ohio University and their online masters in athletic administration. And thanks also to Hometown. Thanks as always for listening. We'll see you next time on the Educational AD Podcast.